Absolutely. I think I like this idea. When I read about it, I thought, wow, who would think of that? And then this is where the human part of it comes, giving them some kind of something to look forward to. And
Yes.
I always believe in this, preparing the mind and body, and this balance that should exist in every human's existence. So truly applaudable and commendable work, Dr. Kiran Bedi. You're no stranger to this story. And your story has been a story that's talked about when before I even met you. That was the first thing everyone talked about, Dr. Kiran Bedi. And so I'm so proud and happy that I'm here with you talking about your achievements. And the most recent achievement, of course, is your book. So perhaps that's linked directly to your tenure in Puducherry. So let's talk about your book, Fearless Governance. I know when I was calling you, and you were saying Dr. Kiran is so busy with a book. Tell us about your book, Fearless Governance.
It's an amazing product. It's a peak of my career. It's a peak of my career, and I'm so happy that I had the time to write it. And I got this as a time during the COVID year. After I finished with the lieutenant governorship, I returned home to Delhi from Pondicherry, and that happened to be the COVID year also. Right? So there was total isolation in a way. And to write, you need a very quiet time to yourself. So, but the good news is that from the day one of my starting my work as Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, I had retained every valuable document, every tweet I sent, or I blogged, or I had a graphic, or I had a press release, or I had a minutes of the meeting, which were not secret, or I had an order issued, or a mentoring note, or a visual or a video tip, which I would do it on my iPhone. Everything was documented. I kept document, not knowing one day when I would write the book, but I was ready to write the book authentically. Because when you write about others' happenings, others' flaws, and others' strengths, you got to have documentation. So when I came back to Delhi, it happened to be the COVID year, I came with my library. I flew back with my library. And I set up a library in the house called the documentation room. And then I start to chapterize my book and start to think about, reflect it. And this is how this book came.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Doctor. I love the cover.
This book is a product of 5 plus 6 years of work. It's 5 years of actual work and 1 year of full research. See, so this book, fortunately, is available on Kindle as well, and also on Amazon. This book is available, but I've also gifted away all the royalties of the book for my foundations, 2 foundations called India Vision Foundation and Navjyoti India Foundation. They educate the marginalized sections of society, and also causes in Puducherry. So royalties will come from the publisher, will be dedicated to causes. So I'm not written this book for any gains, financial gain. I've written it for grooming leadership, because this is all about leadership. How can a public servant, how can a public official serve their country or their office or the place of work fearlessly? And Indra Nooyi, who is the world-renowned CEO, woman CEO, she was president and CEO of PepsiCo for a long, long time. And she's one of the most acclaimed female CEOs. She released this book. And she said this is a blueprint of good governance. And she said that the leadership elements which have been listed out in this book cut across private and the government sector. They are universal principles. So what did I do? Whatever I'd seen, whatever I saw, because I came across broken down systems. I saw corruption. I saw crime. I saw land grabbing. I saw filth and sanitation. When you had the government servants, when you had the politicians, when you had the political leadership, you had the public servants, and yet you had financial mismanagement, you have unsanitary conditions, you also had drought and shortage of water, municipal amenities broken down. When I opened the Raj Nivas as a lieutenant governor, I was in a palace called Raj Nivas. It's called Raj Nivas. So I opened up that palace for a common man's hearings, 2 hours daily, Monday to Friday. Anybody could come on a token basis. And I heard them. I got to know the underbelly of Pondicherry, the corruption, the criminalization, the extortion in the medical college seats, right? And when I found that out, All this is a part of the documentation. So I said, I started to address it without complaining to the government of India. I went back to the people. I corrected it without punishing, without blaming, without writing, without criticizing. I start to correct the systems. When I start to correct the systems and team up and work with the team approach, this is the book tells you about the teamwork, how we start to correct the situations, what were the problems, and how step by step in an open house grievance redressal system was taking morning, weekly rounds, going to the people, bicycling as a lieutenant governor. I was cycling rather than leaving Mercedes car behind. I bicycled to be one of the commoner. I took away all the trappings of the leadership of sirens and noise in the car. See, to be one of the commoner and yet be a lieutenant governor who has a power to appoint, a power to approve budgets. All this is a part of this book, the how. But it also delays the proxy problems which disturbs the vested interests. How does it unnerve the vested interests, whose only priority was how do they have what they want? Transactional. Theirs was a transactional leadership. Mine was a transformational leadership. Mine was a corrective leadership. Theirs was a complaining leadership. There's a big difference. So I think that's what this book is about. It was my duty to write, because if I won't write this history, because things changed, things improved, things turned around, and we became the most best governed union territory and the best improved in governance in the states of India. The last year's survey is recording by the national survey. So we have shown results. It's not that I'm talking about it. 2 years consecutively, Puducherry as a union territory became the best governed, most secure and government union territory of India and of the states, which was, I think, very rare, because we didn't know behind our back there was a survey going on. It was, I have done my duty of what I saw, what you do with what you see, and how you can improve, and what are the leadership qualities you need. So I've given a leadership model in the end. What are the key elements of leadership which we must follow to do your job better? As Indra Nui says, there was a performance with purpose. There was a purpose in that performance. And what was the purpose? And the performance was prosperous Puducherry. I created a mission statement called Prosperous Puducherry. That means all that you do, everybody should equally prosper from that. So this book is a documentation of that, which I'm so happy that it's gone viral already.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear about this kind of taglines or branding. Prosperous Puducherry, or people we used to call Malaysia beautiful Malaysia, or truly Asia. Now these are words that actually give quite a bit of goal. But you also talked about the underside. The issues that were there to clean up. Did you face any kind of challenges during that period? You had to deal with a lot of authorities as well, yeah, or maybe the government itself. Was there any controversial elements that came up during this period?
Plenty, Willow. I'd be surprised if there wouldn't be. There was a defiance. There was an opposition. There was a call for my returning. There was lies trading. There were press conferences. I was cartooned. I was maligned. There had to be hostility, because it hit the vested interest pockets. It hit the big bag pockets of many vested interests. For instance, one of the biggest achievements we've had is the National Supreme Court ordering that the medical seat fee now, National Mission for Medical Education, has ruled, which was an extortion. Every medical student to get admission in a medical college was charged exorbitantly. I challenged that also during my time. I got an order from the Supreme Court of India that the fee has to be capped and admission has to be by merit. Can you believe it? Today, there's a Government of India order where the fees have been capped. Fees have been capped of the private medical colleges all over the country. So what started as a struggle in Puducherry, and there's a chapter in the medical seat chapter, there's a chapter in this book. If you read it carefully, you will get to see the struggle. The struggle, how we fought for the hapless students of medical colleges who were denied admissions because they didn't have the fee, the exorbitant fee to pay. Today, they have a reasonable fee to pay, capped by the Government of India and by the honorable courts. And you see that it's benefited all over the country. So whatever we started as a small fight, which was quite a struggle, because all the medical trust college were trusts. They were in namesake only trusts, but they were all profiteering, and they were all trying to extort money out of the poor children, hapless children. I became their voice. The Lieutenant Governor office became their voice. We got them justice, and we secured it nationally today. It's recently, 2 weeks ago, less than a week ago, an order came from the National Medical Commission of India.
TV AIBD, a platform connecting the world virtually. Bring to your screen a plethora of real-time informative content. Everything from the latest trends in immersive technologies, regional media stories, insight from world leaders, and industry intelligentsia. Empowering broadcasters worldwide. Connect with TV AIBD now, connecting the world.
Okay, and I'm looking at it as an expose. You know, you were doing your policing right there in Puducherry, and of course, this is something which is not just focusing on the problems, but you were doing your job as the lieutenant mayor of that particular vicinity, Puducherry or Pondicherry, as it was known at that time, right? So it's a brave attempt, and something which has borne fruit, and definitely a blueprint, Dr. Kiran. It's a blueprint that will actually be applicable, not just for India, but for many other leaders everywhere. Because I think one of the biggest problems that leaders today face is the inability to be decisive, right? So most often, especially I've been in the civil service, people are still grappling with making decisions, or they don't want to lose their popularity. So there's always this struggle for leaders, either they want to be popular, and how do you continue being popular? Or do you just want to make a mark? So you've shown that making a mark can also make you popular. So you were definitely the people's voice there, Dr. Kiran Bedi. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, as public servants, we are not for popularity. We are for performance.
Performance first. That's so, Dr. Kiran, this book is something on good governance, leadership, not just for India, but also I think the essence of leadership is captured here. And you have many, many photographs. You said you have created a whole library and brought it with you, short videos that are also accessible through QR code. Now that's very exciting. This is all, you've kept up with the times.
It's also model, Philo. This book is also model that democracy is all about people's participation. Real, true democracy and governance is how do you involve the stakeholders, which is the people. So it's an example where people and government, when they work together, they together succeed.
Okay, fantastic. I think I like that. This teamwork, which is not just leaders working for themselves or by themselves, but the involvement of people. And then I like the way you turn the palace into something, for everyone to come in and share their grievances. I mean, that took a lot of guts for people and for yourself, to break, the norm, right, Doctor?
There is a chapter in the book on Philo, water, which is very universally valid. So I'm bringing out a chapter called Water Harvesting. How did we make Pondicherry water rich? Today, water is a major challenge world over. There's a chapter on how did we, without a penny being spent by the government. There's a chapter in this book. Philo, I'd like to offer my soft copy to anybody, my soft copy with compliments to anybody who wants to read this book and not buy the book. I'm happy. My publisher is willing to make this book available online with compliments for anybody who wishes to read this book. It's my standing offer to the publisher, and my publisher is very generous in doing this because the copyrights are with me. If you read the Water Rich Puducherry chapter of this book, I think the world has a solution where the haves provide the have-nots, which means the donor, they clean up the ponds, they clean up the tanks. If they are guzzling water for the tires, for aerated waters, or for their oxygen plants, they also replenish. It's repair and replenish. While you use water, you also repair and replenish. So replenishment methodology by the haves, which is the multinationals, the many companies who've got the machinery to desilt, to clean up the irrigation canals, the tanks, the lakes, by which the rainwater seeps in more.
Mm.
It goes. There's a whole chapter on that. It has to be read. You don't need government funding for it. You just need a combined collaborative approach for it. That's what the chapter is.
Fantastic. And this Water Rich Puducherry is also a documentary. You've also done a documentary, isn't it? You know,
Yes.
where the water table actually went up by 6 meters, meaning groundwater levels have actually increased. And there is this fight for water democracy is also being championed. And you are behind this thing. And I know that in India itself, and not just India, everywhere, water is becoming a scarcity, right? And you mentioned about it being sustainable and replenish. This is what people want to hear because it's a disappearing resource.
Yeah, it can be community replenished. It can be replenished by community collaboration. Somebody may have the hands and somebody may have the money. Somebody may have the machinery. So the neighborhood ponds, the neighborhood tanks, the neighborhood irrigation canals, so that the rainwater goes into those canals. So that means you are water rich. That's where we increased a diminishing water table to replenished and surplus.
Absolutely. This water rich Puducherry. I like these keywords that are actually coming up. And this speaks of your very, your endeavors, your efforts that are reaching out to the grassroots level, Dr. Kiran, and a global theory that could also be used by others all across the world. Right. And a while ago, you mentioned about the Jyoti and India Vision Foundation. And proceeds from this book would actually, the royalties would go towards this. Right. Now, can you tell us a little bit about this Navjyoti India Foundation, India Vision, and India Vision
Foundation came out of the Ramon Magsaysay Award, which comes from Philippines. It's
I see. Okay.
To the Asian Nobel Peace Prize. So it came because of prison and police reforms. So India Vision was born for continuing the prison reform program. So we educate children of prisoners. Because many women who come with their children into the prison, we take care of playway schools for them and also taking care of their skills development and later on security issues. So we have children, the foundation provides education too. So if you go to the India Vision Foundation website, you will know more. Similarly, Navjyoti India Foundation also is on a website that was growing up as crime prevention. When I was in the Delhi police, those days I used to open schools, street schools, playway schools, neighborhood schools for children of drug addicts or children of drug peddlers to go to school so that they don't follow the careers of their parents. And now it is today empowering women, skilling urban and rural poor.
Okay, this is great, because as a policewoman, you were not just catching thieves or, putting people behind bars, but you were actually making sure that crime goes down and educating children of prisoners and making sure that children were educated, skill sets were given. You were actually trying to curb the problem, because very often we hear of only people, the punitive actions that are being taken. But here you are trying to stop the problem. Now, I like that, Dr. Kiran. That must have been something. How did you think of this? This is something really different. And today, many of us are talking about it, right? Educating prisoners, children, and so forth. But there you did it. This is 40 years ago.
Philomena, the leadership is all about problem solving, solutions providing. That's what leadership is all about. My 40 years of work is all about leadership. Leadership in whether it's policing, whether it's prison management, whether it's in social entrepreneurship. I've used my powers of influence for social entrepreneurship as crime prevention, as crime correction, as transformation, as rehabilitation, as correction, the power of prevention. In fact, when I did acceptance speech at the Magsaysay Award speeches, I said, policing is the power to correct, policing is the power to prevent, and policing is the power to get things done.
Fantastic. I like that, but when you think of the police, I think most people only equate it with, perhaps an action or punishment or a lot of other things. But you've upheld the branding of the police, the Indian police force, and you are, I would say, an icon, not just for women, but also for everyone, because this is something which is really inspirational. How are you encouraging other young people, to take up voluntary service? This is something that you've started this. Other young people who are also coming forward to help out people who are, left behind, such as prisoners, children, or even those who are underprivileged or homeless people. Do you find that volunteerism is happening, or do you inspire them to do this? Is there something being done?
In fact, there's not a day when the day is not spent in investing into youth. We are running many portals. My program called Demonstrative Learning is a channel, a YouTube channel. Demonstrative Learning is a portal where we are connecting with the youth on a regular basis, grooming them and training them. So we are running Friday programs. Every Friday, 5 o'clock, we do a session with the youth where they chat with me. I am on a regular chat programs, regular grooming on these channels called Demonstrative Learning. So these are YouTube channels which we are running. So we are, this book is now being used to groom leadership. This book of mine, very soon I will be probably reading this book on my website, and grooming, it's all about grooming leadership. So there's not a day which is missed out in connecting with the youth of this country. And this youth is connecting from all over the country, all over. And we have a regular weekly programs of conversations with me where they have a Q&A with me, a regular question answer to train them, inspire them, motivate them.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And I'm connecting every day with colleges across the country, university and colleges, talking about this book. I've spread this book on the soft copy to universities and managements all over, saying you can read and ask me questions. So they ask me and I groom them further. So I'm spending now most of my time inspiring and grooming youth leadership through my own Demonstrative Learning channel, website, and the webinars.
Thank you. Such words of wisdom. And, this is surely going to be inspiring a lot of people who are listening to this program. And once again, Dr. Kiran Bedi, congratulations. I'm really proud to be talking to you. You're such an enigmatic, what do I say? Such a woman who is motivating at every different levels of your life. I think you're motivating not just women, but men. And I'm so proud that you've been with us here on TV AIBD. Thank you so much for this interview.